Sorry.
It's a little choppy, but we can hear you okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Maybe it's my internet. Um, my name is Rick. I graduated from K-State in May of 2019 in what was mass communications, then in an emphasis in public relations. I believe it's strategic communications now. I currently work at Glenn Devens, which is primarily a marketing agency that focuses in the senior living communities, but we're expanding a little bit into healthcare and finance actually as of recently. I I don't know if I said this already. I'm an SEO coordinator, so I've worked at Glenn Devens for about a year now, coming up on my 1 year actually in a couple of weeks. So, and when I was in PRSSA, I served in a couple of different roles. Eventually, by my senior year, I served as vice president under Anna Siggers.
That was a good little segue, so I'll keep going with it. So hey guys, my name is Anna. I graduated the same time as Anna, May of 2019. Again, at what at the time was mass communications with an emphasis in public relations. I am currently a marketing associate at Irvin & Smith in Omaha. So shout out to any Oma homies. I hate myself. So my role is kind of evolved into a hybrid role. I've kind of taken on some account executive positions while continuing to do my marketing tasks. So kind of have a wide array of experience already. I've been with Irvin & Smith for a 1.5 years this month, which is crazy to think. Otherwise, when I was in PRSSA, I served as secretary and president. I know kind of some of the positions have changed since then, so it's great. Love PRSSA. It's great.
Grant, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah. So my name's Grant. I graduated last May with a degree in Stratcom down the public relations track. So I was involved in PRSSA all 4 years at K-State. I spent a 1.5 years as the communications chair, what is now the VP of communications. And then I spent my last year as the president and then passed that down to Grayson. So it's really exciting to me to see Grayson like in this role now, and him reaching out to me asking me to be on the panel is just like a really full circle moment. So yeah, during college I interned at a few different music industry spots in Nashville, and then I also studied abroad in Thailand 1 semester, and then now I'm working at a company called Hemlock Goods in Columbia, Missouri, so not too far from Manhattan. And I actually, Hemlock is a startup e-commerce brand basically, and we create bandanas. And so my boss Beth, it's actually one of like 5 companies that she owns, and so she brought me on back in June to kind of help the day-to-day operations for Hemlock. So I'm helping with like order management, just making sure like shipping and fulfillment is taken care of every day, as well as doing all the marketing stuff for the company and handling our wholesale clients and sales reps. So it's definitely different than I expected. Definitely a different job than I expected to be in a year ago, but it's great. So yeah.
I'll go. Hi, I'm Ellery. I graduated in May of 2020, just like Grant. I got a Stratcom emphasis in PR degree. I also got a degree in Spanish. Let's see, when I was in PRSSA, I was the treasurer, I think is what it was called at the time. Oh my gosh, it's amazing what you forget. For a year, and then I was VP of External Relations for my senior year, which was a really good time. I miss exec. It was really fun. So I, like Grant, am not really doing what I thought I would be doing at the moment. I am actually what basically is a CNA for a company called Mosaic. I work at a group home that supports 6 high needs individuals. So when I do those, I'm pretty tired. A little different than the 9 to 5, but I'm actually I want to go into health communications in that field. So this is kind of a work the trenches way to get there. So for now, that's what I'm doing, but I'm still job searching. So that's a little bit about me.
Finish out with the youngster, I guess. Most of y'all know me. Hi, hello, you saw me 3 months ago. My name's Mary Hurtrider. For those of you who don't, I graduated in December of last year. I was VP of Communications for PRSSA, and then just kind of a fun little advisor for exec in my last semester. I currently work as the corporate communications specialist for Compass Minerals, which is a salt and mineral mining company. For those of you who have no idea what I'm talking about, I know everything there is to know about salt, quite literally. Ask me anything, I'm so good at it. But I work a lot with the internal communications, so I deal with mostly employees, talking about benefits, talking about well-being, which has been huge. My big project now is obviously the vaccine, all those good things. But I'm based out of Kansas City. I currently live in Olathe, but yeah.
Awesome stuff. Glad to hear from all of you. All right, we'll go around real quick again. Just tell them your name, what year you are, and then just for fun, PR dream job. You guys know me. I'm Grayson. I'm now call myself a junior and a half. Graduate in December, and I don't have a particular dream job. I just want to work in social media. But if I were to come up with one really fun thing, Tony Hawk is always trending on Twitter as he is today. So I guess Tony Hawk's publicist. That'd be fun. We'll just popcorn around. I will pass it off to Addie.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Okay, my name is Addie and I'm a junior currently. And if I had to pick a dream job, I would want to be like some type of PR person at St. Jude Children's Hospital. Mackenzie, do you want to go?
I would love to. So I'm Mackenzie. I'm a junior, and my dream job would probably be to be somebody's publicist, like Patrick Mahomes, something in sports PR, obviously. That's a long shot, but somebody big like him one day. And then I will popcorn to, let's see, Angie.
Hi, I'm Angie. I'm a senior, but I'll be around all year next year too. My dream PR job would be in healthcare communications, and I'd probably like to focus on mental health care if possible. And I will popcorn to Ariana.
Hi, my name's Ariana. I'm also a junior, and my dream job is probably just working somewhere in nonprofit PR, preferably at like a big like city center, like a Union Station or like a museum or something like that. I will pass it off to Taylor.
Hello everyone, I'm Taylor. I am a sophomore, and I would say that I would also like to work somewhere in the sports area like Mackenzie. Sandra, sorry, didn't do that. Sorry.
Hi everyone, I'm Sandra. I'm currently a junior, but I will be graduating this December. My dream job, I would really like to work for an agency right now, just so I can work with different things. But yeah, I don't really have a set dream job, but other than that, I'll pass it to Who else hasn't gone? Olivia.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I am a senior in agricultural communications, and I don't really have a dream job, but I would like to work for some sort of agriculture place in the communications department, perhaps. So yeah, and I'll pass it to Kylie.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and I'm a junior. I'll graduate next May, and my dream job would be in communications in the art field, working with a museum or with a gallery.
Great. I think that's everybody. Is anybody not gone? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So now we're going to get into the actual kind of panel discussion of it. And I have some questions prepared, but I want this to be as conversational as possible. So anybody, please feel free to jump in with questions. Just Zooms are always awkward anyway. So feel free to just jump in when you kind of see an opening. If there's a follow-up question or whatever, just feel free. I'm also having some internet issues. So if I cut out in the middle of asking a question, please just carry on without me. With that being said, and this is first one's just kind of to the whole panel, is what sort of advice would you give to yourselves either that last semester of your senior year or just graduated, first looking at that job search?
I'll go first again. And I also have no locations because my Wi-Fi is spotty, and my Wi-Fi is in this cat's 90, so I just feel like it should be happening, but whatever. As far as what advice I would give myself during my senior year or even for the post-grad, just job search is, what I always say, is giving yourself grace. It's really challenging times, especially now that we have COVID involved. And, I graduated before COVID was even a thing. So I remember just being really hard on myself about job search, about, making sure all of my stuff was in order, my resume and things. And just kind of in hindsight, I wish I would have remembered to have fun during my senior year. Not that I didn't have fun, but to have as much fun as I could, because life was going to be just so much different once you're in the workforce. And, you really get that balance in your life. And also that, everyone's job search story is completely different. No one follows the same path where they ended up. And so I think it's really important to just give yourself grace and not compare yourself to others, and know that when your time comes to find a job, to find something that's a good fit for you, you'll find it. So
I'm going to jump in on that because my question kind of goes hand in hand with that. It's like, I just wish I would have told myself to be a little bit more open to job opportunities. I kind of at the beginning of my senior year determined that I wanted to move to New York and work in the music industry and like get a job at a record label in the PR department. Like it was very, very specific. And I think, it's good to have like a specific goal in mind, but in a way, I think I kind of had blinders on because I was maybe missing certain opportunities that I could have gone to instead, because I think I had this mindset of like, my first job has to be like the exact job that I want. And something I've learned, like obviously working in this other job that I didn't see coming, is like your first job doesn't have to be your dream job. And it's probably best that it's not, because you get to kind of learn a lot of new things from a job that maybe like you don't have to put so much pressure on, I guess, as if it were like your dream job. So yeah, I would just say like in general, be open to other possibilities, and try not to limit yourself too much. And yeah, also just give yourself grace too. And I really like what Anna said about like not comparing yourself to others, because everyone's on a different path. So
To piggyback off of that a little bit, because I can agree with both of them. You should listen to all of them. They're all amazing. I would say to what my mom told me and what I found really helpful: take every interview, apply. The least you can do is apply. The most they can do is say no. Oh no, they don't get amazing you. Sorry. Next job will love you. But always take an interview, because I had some rough interviews on both sides. I myself am a rough interviewer. I'm not very good at it. And then I had some people who you could tell had never interviewed someone in their life. And you learn from every single one of those experiences. And once you sit in an interview and you get to your position and you know that that's the company that you want to work for, you'll know. It's like one of those like tingly feelings in like the back of your neck or like in your gut. Like you'll just know like this is where I'm supposed to be. So just take that interview, even if you think you won't like the position, just to have that experience and see if your gut tells you otherwise.
I agree with Mary. Interviews, you can always practice them. So it's always important to get that practice. No interview is ever the same. You hear so many different questions, and it's really great to kind of try to keep track of those questions in your head and reflect on them after the interview. I think two things that I would tell myself would be learn how to use Excel, figure out how to use Excel. I had no clue how to use it, and I use it multiple times throughout a day in my current position. So it's funny because it's hard. And then also always say yes. Doesn't matter the task, doesn't matter how difficult it is. You can always use Google to figure it out. Just always say yes, always be willing to jump in, be willing to help with anything, no matter the size of the task. It will always be good in the end.
I think the only thing I really have to add to that is just as you go forward, make sure you're moving forward. Don't settle for something that's not going to progress you, even if it's like Grant was saying, it may not be the job that you start out, it's not your dream job, but if it's something that you gain experience in and you're learning something all the time, that's what's important. But if you feel like it's not a job where you're going to learn anything new, it's okay to say no to that. And to be a little picky, not in necessarily what your job is, but the direction it will send you in. So just don't settle for that. I definitely just, with my current job, with where I want to go in my career, I'm learning a lot about the people at kind of like the low end of the totem pole. They're not in the office sending out all these great emails and messages to a national company, but I'm working with the individuals, I'm talking with their families, I'm forming relationships with people, and that's just as important. No, I'm not doing anyone's social media at the moment, but I think as long as you're moving forward towards your ultimate goal, go for it.
Those are all great answers. Thank you. So my follow-up question, it's kind of an inverse of that. And didn't sound like we had any like real young freshmen or sophomores here tonight, but I know we still have some juniors with still a lot of time in college to make the most of. So kind of the inverse of that is, if you could go back to your freshman year, what advice would you give to your younger self for how to spend your college years?
I can go first. I had a really rough freshman year. I absolutely hated it. I hated K-State, hated everything I was doing. I was trying to figure out a way to transfer. And that was first semester. And then when I came home for winter break, my parents told me, just try something different, try something out of your comfort zone, and really see what you can do with it. And so I was like, fine, whatever. And I tried a bunch of new clubs. I was attending all these meetings. I took on positions in my sorority. And from that, I really just kind of blossomed. I don't want to say that. It sounds weird, but I did. And I made so many friends, got to experience so many different things, learned so many things, met new people, made connections, and that was the best thing that I could have ever done. So I wish I would have done it earlier so that I would have formed those relationships sooner and would have been able to really take advantage of them more than what I was doing at the time. I love K-State now, don't worry.
I would probably tell younger Mary, yikes. I would probably say not necessarily to be picky, but to be around people, whether that's friends or faculty members or anything like that, that just inspire the heck out of you. Like, be around people who you might not agree, like, you're not going to go down that same path, like, that's not you. But I can say this because Danny's not here, but damn, they kill it every day. Um, Surround yourself with those kind of people, because whether you realize it or not, you feed off of that energy, and it's very important to have that confidence in college, and then especially right after, when you think that you're just low on the totem pole. It's important to have that confidence to say, like, I know people that are super inspiring that are my age, that I know what I can do, kind of thing. And I know that I can be just like them, even though you are just like them. But that's my speech.
Yeah, I would piggyback off of what Mary said and kind of the confidence thing. I think something that has been iterated is getting involved, and I think that's really important. And part of getting involved, I think, is just general networking, even with your peers. And I think as a freshman, I was really afraid to go to meetings and things like that, but also just like networking with professionals in the industry as well, like reaching out to them on LinkedIn or anything. It was really nerve wracking for me. And in hindsight, I really would have done it. There's lots of people. I think Grayson is a good example of this. Sorry to call him out. That when he got involved his freshman year, he ended up landing an internship at SEG there in Manhattan. And I think that is such a cool opportunity, and I wish that something like that would have happened to me as a freshman. So don't count yourself out as a freshman. There's so many opportunities. People are willing to take risks on it, having you as an intern. So
I would say don't write in pen, always use pencil. Everything changes all the time. What you like doing, what you think you're gonna do, it will all change, guarantee it. So, and that's okay. And there's a lot really cool, there's just a lot of big words. See, pencil, rough. I think there's a huge beauty to just finding out a lot about yourself. When you're in college, there's not really a better opportunity to do that. So take all of the opportunities that you have, everything and everyone has already said, and be okay with changes. Changes are good.
Yeah, I'm gonna round it out and just say, like, take advantage of every single semester and summer that you can. I spent my first summer just like in Manhattan working at just like a campus job. And part of me wishes I would have like used that summer to like find a more relevant internship or something, or like I'll look back on a certain semester and think like, why did I take that class? Like, I know it was an easy class to take, but maybe I could have taken a class that like taught me Excel at Anna, or something like that. Just like take advantage of every single thing that you can to like really build out your roster, so that like when you're graduated, you have already so much experience under your belt. It just is going to put you so much further ahead of like everyone else. So
a lot of great stuff there. Thank you. Also, real quick, Anna, I should thank you, because from what Sheila's told me, it sounds like you had more to do with me getting that internship than I did. So shout out you. But,
I promise I wasn't trying to like secretly pat myself on the back. I was really just trying to give a good example.
Appreciate it. Does anybody else have any questions? Anybody want to jump in? And if you don't feel comfortable, just jumping in, you can also just put a question in the chat and we'll be sure to get to it. But
I have a quick question. What do you think is most important to just really emphasize in your cover letter and your resume? I mean, what do you think stood out to your employers now that potentially got you the job?
Y'all, I have a really good answer to this. Okay, I'm prepared. My employer, I love him dearly. His name is Kevin. He said that the reason that I stood out to him compared to everybody else was that I was actually editor-in-chief of my high school newspaper. Now, why I kept it on my resume as a junior, senior in college was because I felt it was relevant too. It shows that you can write, it shows that you can lead, and it shows that you're decently good at both. So I would say don't count out those niche experiences. Like, don't put that you were president of the bird watching club in high school, but if it's relevant, put it on your resume. And then, speaking as someone who was just in the process of hiring who's going to be our intern this summer, what stood out to me about her resume was her proficiencies. And I say that I'm backing off of Anna again, but you have to be good at Excel. You have to be good at Microsoft products. I understand a lot of people use Apple personally and Macs personally and Adobe. If you want to be a designer, you got to know Adobe. But being able to use basic Microsoft products sounds really redundant, but it is very important. So don't be afraid to put those kind of things on your resume either.
Yeah, something I would say, kind of piggybacking off of that, is just some of those more technical skills. I think something that is on a lot of job applications is knowing Google Analytics, and I feel like I talk about this a lot, but it's something that is really easy to learn. There's free courses. I took a free course online the last semester of my senior year, and knowing that at least the basics will be really helpful. I don't know a single job in the industry that you don't use Google Analytics, at least in the agency world. And so I think that's a really good technical skill to learn. Also, just any of the Google, like Google Search Console, any of those things are really helpful to know.
Yeah, I'd say like the biggest thing is just curating your resume and cover letter to who it's going to. Like, a good example or a good like metaphor for this is like if you are like creating a playlist on Spotify for like a friend, and like you don't want to just put like every single song ever in there because like they're not gonna respond to that. You got to like give them something you know that they're gonna like and like jive with. So definitely like making sure, like what Mary said, like putting relevant info in your resume and cover letter. I know like for one of my cover letters, that was like an application to a music industry spot. Like I made sure to talk about something related to like my music interests, just to like show them a little bit of my personality and like music taste, because that's relevant information that they're going to want to know, whether it's like relevant to the job or just like if they're curious, because I know that they're going to be interested in music in general. And so that is like leading me to my second point, which is like have an identifier or something in your cover letter that is going to like make you somewhat memorable. So like after they've read through 10 cover letters, they can be like, oh, I really liked that guy's letter that talked about his love for this artist, or that he talked about this specific experience that no one else had. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but just something that shows them a little bit of your personality, and isn't just so like dry, I guess, because they're probably weeding through so many applications. Give them something that they're gonna really connect with, I guess.
I to kind of go off of that, as far as my resume, I kind of angle that towards this is what I've done, yada yada, and I see my cover letter as more of this is how I connect to your mission with what I want to do. Going into healthcare communications, you can, any hospital, anything like that, you can break down the mission into, we want to raise money to help people feel better, no matter what organization you're looking at. So for me, I have my second paragraph in my cover letter is pretty much the same for everywhere I'm applying to, because I'm applying to healthcare places. And it's about how I connect to the mission based off of my background with my family. My sister has epilepsy, and she's also a cancer survivor. So years in the hospital, I can connect to a lot of missions. So I think for me, that's when I'm searching for jobs, I search for how I can connect to the mission, because then it's almost like the letter writes itself. I think if you're really having to change everything, you should think about it with your writing, because if it's that hard to write, are you really going to enjoy what you're doing? And that could be very wrong, but just something to keep in the back of your mind as you start the application process and searching for how you want to start your career.
I was going to say what Ellery said, really tailor that cover letter to their mission statement, their logo, or not their logo, their, gosh, now I just forgot every design term in my whole life. Their like saying, like Urban and Smith saying is never settle. So I really tailored my cover letter to discuss how I don't ever settle for like the bare minimum. I'm always trying to take that next step and further and be better. So really using that cover letter to talk about how you have had experience that shows never settle and how you plan to never settle in the future in this position.
All right. Anybody else? Next question.
I was going to ask, what is your biggest advice for the interviewing process? Like, if there's one thing you could say, what would it be?
I can go first. So I have two pieces of advice for this. My first one is a very short story. I had received an interview at a large agency here in Omaha. It was like my dream interview for an internship. It was in like downtown Omaha. It was super cool. It was very flashy, like basically what everybody thinks about when they want an internship. And I got there, I was wearing my lucky pants. I was ready. I was so excited. The receptionist had me sit in the waiting room, and their waiting room was like super cool. There's like a leafy wall, there's all these trophies, there's a candy wall. And I take out my phone and I start taking pictures. And this was like sophomore year, Anna, not very bright. And I start taking pictures. I take a video of me like spinning around, and I look up and I see a camera on the wall, and I just have this like inner feeling that they're watching me. And after talking to some like alumni on a panel similar to this, they said sometimes people will like make the interviewee wait, and then they watch them to see what they're doing. Like, are they preparing? Are they looking through their resume? What are they thinking about? And so I didn't get the internship, and I really think that's why. It was just a bad setup on my part from the get-go. So that's one thing not to do. The other thing, my other piece of advice, which I'm sure everyone can really attest to, is thank you notes. Handwritten thank you notes sent via snail mail is always a great way to really kind of cinch that interview process, including a business card or something that can kind of help them remember you, is a great way to do it. Make the thank you card very meaningful. Don't just do a basic like, hey, thanks for the interview, dash, sincerely, Anna Stiggers, whatever. Pull out points, talking points that you had discussed in the interview. Again, refer back to their mission statement, like Ellery said, and talk about how you can live that out in this position. But also send like a thank you email immediately after the interview. So the snail mail will get there a couple days later, but they'll get that email right away.
Be overly prepared, know a lot about the company that you're interviewing with, look on the website, look on their LinkedIn, if they also are kind of get on for what the company is like, their culture, what they're about, and also just be overly prepared. Know everything that's on your resume, know what kinds of questions they'll ask you. Something I always did is I looked up common interview questions. I looked up like common obscure interview questions, like what if they ask you something off the wall, like how do I prepare for that? And that really helped me out, and like typing out my answers and really thinking about them and just reviewing all of that, I think is really helpful so that they can't really catch you off guard. And even if they do, like you can kind of anticipate what kind of question they might ask you.
I think it's really important Obviously, at the end, they always ask you if you have any questions. Always have questions prepared, but if you don't have any more, ask what's next and when you should expect to hear from them again. I think that shows that you're really interested and also answers the question for you, because sometimes they'll wait 4 days and you're sitting there like, are they gonna email me back? Am I already out of this process? So I think those two questions are really, really important, just to show your initiative and also so you have an idea of what's next and when to expect to hear from them.
I would say, like my biggest piece of advice is just to like be completely honest in the interview. I've almost always had a question that like trips me up and I don't know an answer. I can't think of one on the spot, or like they ask me something and I just can't think of a great answer for it. I'm like, I would say be honest about that and just like upfront and like own it that you like can't think of something, or in a way that obviously sounds professional and confident. But like, I think one, if you try to lie, they're gonna like sniff you out. Like they know a bullshitter when they see one, basically. So like, don't try to lie, because that's, if they do catch on to that, that's obviously not a good trait. But you know, being honest and like taking ownership of like, well, I'm not sure about that, actually shows them like that you take responsibility for things. And like, that's just a really good trait that I think every employer is looking for, and they're going to respect that so much more than you trying to like come up with some like random answer just to like have an answer. So sometimes you can outsmart them that way, I feel like.
I only have Zoom interview tips. I'm very sorry. I've literally only interviewed for real positions through Zoom. I've met my boss exactly one time in person, and it was a month ago. I'd already been hired. So my two biggest tips are, know your resting face, know your thinking face, because they only see your face on Zoom. So please know what that looks like, and if you have to change it, work on that on your own time. I've seen a lot of those over the course of the last year. And then I would also say, as far as technical difficulties go, girl, we've all been there. Girl, we're all going to continue to be there. Everybody thinks it's funny at this point, so don't start sweating. Like, if you have technical difficulties, just type in a message or type them a quick email. I'm assuming you'd have their email, and say, hey, I'm so sorry, I'm experiencing technical difficulties. I will fix it. So sorry, like, we'll work it out. No one's upset. Everybody gets it. So just like take that deep breath and realize that you're not alone.
Yeah, Mary, Zoom interview tips right now are extremely important. So we appreciate the expertise from a December 2020 graduate. Another question?
I was just going to piggyback. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut anyone off.
It's Zoom.
I was just gonna piggyback off of like kind of things that said, and that's something I thought of. Just a lot of times they will ask you about salary, especially in-person interviews or even over Zoom, and it can be really awkward and feel really uncomfortable. But I think it's important to come prepared, especially if you're in your second or third round of interviews. It's really important to know what size company this is, because that's going to impact ultimately how much they can pay you and what's a reasonable offer. And I think that is just, that's going to come up eventually, even if in email. And that happened to me in person. I hated the experience. I hated telling them like how much I was hoping for, but it was something that I needed to be prepared for. So
Quick follow-up question on that and kind of the intern sense. How, if it's not clear whether or not it's paid or unpaid, how do you go about, so obviously that's probably not something that they might ask you. You might have to go out of your way to ask them that. How would you recommend doing that?
I interned with Make-A-Wish, Colorado, my junior summer, and I figured it wasn't paid. So I actually told them, one, it was in Denver, and I am I live like an hour north of Denver, so I knew I'd have to commute. So I kind of went from that approach of, hey, like I have to commit to commuting if I were to get this position. And also I work another job. Is that possible for me to work part-time instead of full-time, or what are your expectations for how many hours I put in the office every week? So I was just pretty frank about it because I needed to know that if I wasn't going to get paid, I needed to know that I was able to make money during the summer still. So I would say just be really open with it, and be honest about your situation.
Anybody else? I know that was just kind of a quick follow-up, so don't feel like we all need to go around. If
I would just say, like, just be direct if you aren't sure. Like, that's a perfect question to ask whenever they, at the end, you know, they're always going to be like, do you have any questions? And that's a fair question to ask, is like, oh, is this a paid or unpaid internship? And a lot of times I feel like in the application, you can usually find that information, but if for some reason it's not there, like, that's definitely a question that's up for grabs. So don't be afraid to ask it.
anybody else have another question?
I have just a quick question. Is there anything about the job market or about the workforce that has really surprised you, or conversely, something that you were super prepared for that you maybe didn't think you were going to be prepared for?
I can go. So my position is titled Marketing Associate. I didn't do anything marketing in college. I don't even know marketing terms. I don't know anything about digital media, and they still somehow hired me. But it was because I had talked about kind of those soft skills that I had learned from K-State, from PRSSA, and talked about how I was able to be adaptable. So really just kind of being more adaptable than what you expect is something that I wasn't expecting. Things are always changing. Obviously, like you guys are no longer in person, or well, you're kind of in person, hybrid, whatever, for college. Like things change on the fly, and it's really like that in the workforce as well. So just being willing to be adaptable.
I can kind of piggyback off of that and say, remember the skills or tools that you have used. If you get as far as an interview, I interviewed actually with a law firm before I accepted a position at Compass, and I don't know how we got on the subject at all, but we got on the subject of like what system they were using as a project management tool. Great question, by the way, to ask. What is a project management tool that you use? If they don't have one, it's a little weird. Somebody always has something, whether it's an Excel document or whether it's Asana or whatever. And I told them, I said, I've used Rike, I've used Asana, and they were like, oh my gosh, we use Rike. And then we got on a 20-minute tangent about Rike. So don't forget those little things that you think aren't super important. Like, yeah, I use MailChimp every day, or yeah, I use, Microsoft Teams. I'm sure you've all heard of that one. Things like that can connect you with people a lot more than some of the other skills can, because they can start talking about what they like and dislike, and it's a whole big thing. So I'd say remember those skills while you're on the job hunt for sure.
Something I would say is that I know I was really intimidated post graduation of like big agencies, kind of like where I work now. And I started at a smaller agency and eventually transitioned to my current position. But they're people too. They once interviewed, they were once, doing entry level jobs, and you can get jobs at really great places, and just don't be intimidated by the process, I would think, and don't be intimidated that you're not as smart or don't know as much as your coworkers, because they're learning too, and you bring a lot to the table. They want to hire you because you do bring a lot. And the other, like, just kind of lifestyle thing, I guess, associated with getting a post-grad job is life is kind of a transition into that, like, 8 to 5, 9 to 5 lifestyle. I know that in college, like, your day is broken up. You go to class, you come home, you eat lunch, you go to class again, you hang out with your friends, and just in the real world, like, that's just not how it works. You work 8 to 5 every day, and then you come home, and for the first 6 months, you're kind of exhausted because you're not used to working 40 hours a week. So
I would say that exhaustion doesn't really end after the first week, probably, just to like a fair warning. Yeah, it's a big adjustment from like student to full time, or like even intern to full time. I don't think I like prepared myself enough for it, or like really thought it was going to be a big transition. But like I remember in the first maybe month of my job, I think I told Anna this one time when we were like catching up, and I was like, yeah, it's just a weird concept. Like if I don't do a task, like nobody else does it. Like there's no, like, it's all on me to do it. Which is like kind of a, I don't know, you don't really think about that kind of stuff, but when you're an intern or like a part-time employee, you like have this mindset of like you're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. Like if you don't do it, or like, you know, somebody else will kind of like be there to pick up the slack. But then like you're in your first full-time job and you're like, oh, it's all on me. Like they hired me in this role, I'm here to do this job that they hired me for. It sounds really like duh, like why wouldn't you think that? But I don't know, that's something that surprised me, I think, when I first got into my job. So
The only thing I have to say about this kind of goes back into interviewing and stuff, but I'm in the middle of an interviewing process with a potential position. But they actually, because I'm not like working in communications, they asked a lot about that and what could I pull out from my job that wasn't communications. And I also was able to pull from being a double major, my Spanish courses and stuff. Like they asked, you know, when did you fail? I'm like, well, let me tell you about when I failed my Spanish oral. So I think being able to remember those things, kind of like what Mary was talking about, but also be confident that about your experience, every experience you have is valuable. So when they start asking you about things, not everything has to be about your leadership position, your major. It can be about your life, because you're going to learn a lot, especially in college, about who you are. So those answers are just as valuable, and it's important to be confident in that, because they'll see that as well.
Looks like we've got time for 1, maybe 2 more questions. Anybody else have anything? Okay, I've got another one. You guys have kind of touched on it. You know, I remember Grant talked about being open to just some different opportunities or things you want to really see. And so I know a few of you aren't necessarily doing what you thought you'd be doing, or maybe always dreamed of doing. And Ellery, especially, I know you're doing something now to really prep you for that dream communications job you do want one day. So, you know, what can you say about, I guess, just getting yourself in that mindset that it's okay to not be seem like you're not going exactly where you want to be right away?
So I talked to my mom a lot about this, and just about with people that I'm close to, because it is, for me, it has been a big struggle, because this is just like a CNA. Come on, that is not what I want to do. But I really love my job. My clients are amazing, and I would never get to work with them if I was in the communications office, especially right now, because their families are just now able to come into the doors of our house. So I'm getting the opportunity to build relationships with the key person, the people that make the business work. And I tell myself that a lot. And also, every time I talk with my boss or the people within like the regional headquarters, I try to go the extra mile. I've met with the community relations manager before. She's sent me job applications like, hey, I found this. So I think you can always network, even if you're working as a lifeguard or something like that. You can always find new connections. You can always find valuable skills. You can refine your goals, all of those things. I mean, everything that you do is valuable. That's something I've told myself over and over again, just keep pushing. When my time comes, which hopefully is soon, it'll be great. But I don't have any regrets for how things have gone. I think the position I'm working in has actually, based off of the interview process that I'm currently in, it's been really helpful. So if you want to work in healthcare, get your CNA. I don't know. But yeah, just be open to it. And just call your mom, tell her how you're feeling. Check in with yourself and your loved ones. That's what I've done.
I can piggyback off of that for sure. For those of you who know what I graduated in, it was animal science. That's what my little diploma says. It's not what I'm doing. I'm talking about salt, and I talk to employees every day. But I took the position because it was in agriculture. I've stayed in the position because my team rocks. And that's why I say take every interview, because you never know who you're going to vibe with and who you're not. And I'm going to be the person that's always going to tell you your job isn't always it's like skipping through a field of daisies. Most of the time it's actually a lot of hard work, but if you surround yourself and your team is so good, you're going to love going to work every day. I haven't had a day where I haven't laughed my butt off at something one of my coworkers has said during a freaking Zoom meeting. So just keep that in mind when you're doing the interview process. The job itself should be what you want to do. The content doesn't necessarily have to be the greatest thing of all time, but the people that you work with really do make the job.
Yeah, I would say like, I mean, even if that first job isn't exactly what you want it to be, definitely take advantage of it as much as you can and like learn as much as you can and like use it to learn. Like in my job, I email so many people all the time, and like this job has taught me like how to write a concise email pretty quickly. And that's something that like I didn't get a lot of practice of in college or in my internships. So I mean, like that's one skill I can take to my next job with me. Learning just like time management and just like learning how to be a full-time employee is such a huge skill that I don't think people give enough credit to whenever you're like job searching or going through all these like panels. So definitely like don't discount your first job, because there's a lot you can learn from it and take with you to the next job. And like even what Mary said, like being a good coworker and learning what that means and like working well with other people and like fitting in with the group. And I don't know, there's just a lot you can learn from that first job, I think.
Yeah, I would say that my first job was, like I said, a small agency. At first, I wasn't that thrilled about it, to be honest. But after I started working there, I so much. I was like in the weeds every single day, and that ended up leading to my current position. I never in a million years, if you would have asked me in college, thought I'd end up working in SEO. But now I really love my job. I really love my coworkers. I work for a really great company, and so that first job taught me so much that it was invaluable. Like I know so much more after that first 8 months in that job than I knew, in my 4 years of college. So I would just say being open to taking jobs that aren't necessarily what you envision yourself in can actually help you grow a lot.
Anna, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I was just going to say pretty much the same thing. At any job, you can learn what you don't like and how you don't want to work. And that's an acceptable thing to learn as well.
All right. Well, looks like that'll do it. All of you, thank you so much for joining us. It was really great to see and hear from you. It's really just awesome to see you guys out in the real world kicking butt, and can't wait to see what you guys continue to do. Hope to see you Monday. Everyone else, again, hope all of you can join us Monday too. Apply for exec. It's awesome. And I think we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you.